welcome to Northwire's Roundtable discussion. Today we're going to take a closer look at environmentally friendly cable and wire and the materials that go into them. My name is Bridget Locke and I'll be your host today. And I am joined by Krista Lindquist and Linda Brown, and I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Krista Lindquist. I'm a materials engineer for our research and development department here at Northwire. I'm celebrating a year and a half working here at Northwire with a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, and I am also CAPM certified.
And my name is Linda Brown. I'm a sales engineer here at Northwire, and so my primary focus is on cable design and quotation. I've been with Northwire for 10 years this year.
Northwire's focus on a green future is evident in our innovative solutions that we manufacture for a variety of markets. And so, Linda, could you tell us maybe a little bit more about what types of markets we manufacture green cables for?
Sure. Some of the green markets that we serve are electric vehicle charging cables, the solar, wind generation, so like your wind turbine tray cables. We do wastewater treatment plant type cables and other water quality testing and monitoring type cables.
All right, Krista, what makes these green products unique that we manufacture for various, again, green or eco-friendly markets?
These products are using thermoplastic compounds that contain a variety of different characteristics, including halogen-free, irritant-free, they're non-toxic. We also have zero bioburden materials, and all that are in compliance with RoHS, REACH, FDA, and USP. And again, for applications that require flame retardants, we also have many low smoke and halogen-free flame retardant materials available.
Okay, thanks, Krista. I know you mentioned HFFR, halogen-free flame retardant cable. So EcoPower is one of our products that meets that. So Linda, could you maybe tell us a little bit more about our EcoPower product line?
So our EcoPower product line is also, it's an environmentally friendly product line and free of PVC, so it's an alternative to PVC, free of phthalates. It is also HFFR, so halogen-free flame retardant. Actually, Northwire's EcoPower line is the industry's first HFFR UL62 approved cable. And it's very flexible, it's very durable for extreme environments, and we can use EcoPower product line in a lot of different applications, medical, consumer electronics, aerospace, marine, so it's very versatile.
And as you said, how it performs in extreme environments, the cable is rated from minus 50 degrees Celsius up to 105 degrees Celsius. Mm-hmm. It is also extremely abrasion resistant. It's also resistant to kinks, crush, and marring. And it has also got significant flame ratings of VW1 and FT2 ratings for flame with the halogen-free flame retardant.
Right.
And our EcoPower cable is also available in custom colors and retractile options as well.
Later we'll talk to Melissa Somerset about a specific electric vehicle charging cable and an end application that we've been working on. But first, there have been a lot of changes to the electric vehicle charging standards. And so, Krista, could you maybe tell us a little bit more about those recent developments?
Sure. Recently, UL has added to the UL62 flexible cord standard to add the EV charging cable specifications. So Northwire has recently developed a brand new generation of our EV charging cables to accommodate these additions to the standard.
That standard does govern the electrical vehicle charging cables. UL62 is the flexible cord standard, and it allows for us to offer composite constructions with signal and power now. So the signal wires can be actually smaller than 18 gauge, where your standard flexible cords you can't use smaller gauge sizes than 18 gauge. So additionally, the UL62 standard also dictates to us what type of materials need to be used on those EV cables. So we do have options for PVC and also TPE. For the flex cord standards, you have junior rated versions. So we have EVJT, which would be PVC junior rated at 300 volts, and EVJE, which would be junior rated with TPE at 300 volts. Then we also have a heavy duty line, which would be the EVE and EVT, which would be 600 volt rated. EVT is PVC, and EVE would be TPE for the insulation and jacket materials. It also dictates what thicknesses need to be used for the insulation and jacket, depending on gauge size or the core construction, what that's coming out at for the OD.
Wow, so UL 62 really has some specific parameters around designing an EV cable.
Yeah, that is true, and it can be difficult to follow sometimes. So one thing that Northwire does specialize in, we do help our customers navigate through that standard and make sure that we're creating the correct design to that standard with the correct thicknesses, correct materials, and OD requirements.
And to add to that, our EV cable charging product line is compatible with commercial and residential charging stations. And also, we've now achieved a CUL US rating on our product line, which means that we are compliant to the United States, Canada, and in Mexico. Northwire's EV charging cables are also resistant to abrasion, oil, cut, chemicals, and UV rays.
My name is Melissa Somerset, and I've been with Northwire just shy of about 9 years now. And I currently work in customer support, and I've also worked in quite a few different departments with Northwire. Yeah, one of the major projects that we've worked on was for this EV charging cable, and this actually just came through as a request on our website for quote. And it was kind of a basic request. I contacted our customer, and from the beginning we were looking at just having kind of a standard EV charging cable. It then morphed into a retractile, and not only a retractile but a custom color, and then from there we actually ended up doing the full assembly. Most charging stations right now are only 30 amps, whereas this customer wanted something special. So what they did is they wanted to create the first 80 amp dual charging. So this will actually do 2 cars at the same time at 80 amps, and then it also will charge fuller and faster than what the standard are in the market right now. So what the customer was kind of looking for was the boldest, baddest cable on the planet. So one of the things they decided to do was to go with a retractile instead of the standard straight cables, and then also a standard, or instead of the standard colors, doing the red to kind of catch your eye a little bit more. So one of the things we did is we actually pulled a team together because the UL 62 flex cord standard is kind of what governs the materials that you can use for the particular cable. So we do have a couple approved materials we could use. From there, what we actually had to do was also see what would hold a good coil memory as well. So it's not only, just what we have approvals for under the UL 62, it's what'll work good for a coil. So this is kind of what we came up with. So one of the other things when we came together as a team we had to discuss is the sheer size of this retractile, because it's a little bit bigger than what we normally process, so we needed to make sure we had all the tools and the manpower to be able to do it, not only in our retractiles department but also in assemblies. We've actually had quite a few customers come to us with kind of custom versions of the EV charging cables. A lot of them are looking for kind of more vibrant colors. We've quoted some blue. We're working on some now that are orange with additional Kevlar strength in it. because they're looking for more of like a crush-proof cable. So a lot of them are trying to get more the kind of indestructible, but yet also kind of appealing to the eye type of cables.
Okay, Fabian, so we touched on a few different eco-friendly markets earlier in the webinar. Which of these markets would you say is part of Northwire's business development strategy for 2016?
I believe we can categorize those eco-friendly markets in two subsets. From a power consumption perspective, electric vehicles and the associated charging infrastructure definitely represent a strategic market and application field that Northwire is pursuing for 2016 and the years to come. Then from a power generation perspective, concentrated solar power as well as wind farms typically require related controls and instrumentation. And Northwire has definitely a strong solution offering in this segment, especially for the low voltage and the lower end of the medium voltage range. So from our EcoPower product lines available in specific cable constructions to basically dedicated communication protocols, Northwire has developed various specific solutions able to address harsh environments.
Okay, great. So starting with the power consumption side, what is the current state of the electric vehicle industry on a worldwide perspective?
Excellent questions. By mid-September 2015, over 1 million highway legal plug-in electric passenger cars have been sold worldwide, obviously representing just less than 0.1% of the world total stock of motor vehicles. So this number is not really that impressive. But what's really encouraging is that of those, 520,000 vehicles were sold in 2015 only, representing a little more than 40% of the cumulative total since the launch of the first commercialized electric vehicle in this millennium. If we go to market by market type of overview, as of December 2015, the United States was the leading market with over 410,000 light, basically duty plug-in electric vehicles delivered since 2008. China ranked second with about 260,000 units sold since 2011, followed by Japan, who had about 130,000 vehicles basically sold since 2009. Now, if we look at the European Union overall, basically over 310,000 light-duty plug-in electric vehicles have been registered basically since 2010, and this data point was taken like in the middle of 2015. Now, another measure or metric is basically the market penetration per capita. So if we look on a worldwide basis, Norway is definitely leading that metric, since already in March 2014 in Norway, there were more than one electric vehicle per 100 passenger cars basically on the roads.
Okay, great. So what future market trends are you seeing on the horizon?
So research conducted at major consulting firms, as it is often the case, has indicated that there are several success factors to enable electric vehicle growth in an evolving market. And the ultimate success will be highly dependent on the following factors. So one of the most important ones with a lot of media coverage, it's basically the government regulation and subsidies. Tightening CO2 emission, as well as basically billions of subsidies and incentives around the world, are encouraging great industry participation, as well as a better adoption of clean vehicles in the marketplace. So for instance, if we look at Europe, where CO2 emission basically limits typically are the drivers, for 2020, the average to be achieved for the entire fleet, basically for new vehicles of a given car manufacturer, has to be 95 grams per kilometer. So therefore, when you have vehicles with a much higher, basically CO2 emission level, you need to basically have a zero emission vehicle offering like electric vehicles in order to basically balance this whole equation. So that will drive it. In the US, where the government has invested more than $5 billion in electric vehicles overall, including loans and grants for battery producers, charging stations manufacturers as well, and obviously also tax credits to car buyers, going up to $7,500. Those have been some trends. In other countries like Japan, you have subsidies equivalent up to $8,800 and in China up to $9,900. So those are definitely also helpful. Besides all these economic factors or motivators, there are some other basically decision points that consumers will take. So for instance, to take an example here in California, the law allows you to have a single occupant basically use of a fuel efficient or basically environmental friendly vehicle in carpool lanes, as long as basically this vehicle qualifies for this program. So there are two types of stickers that the California Department of Motor Vehicles, or DMV, will basically issue. They're the so-called white stickers, who are available without any limits in terms of numbers for the qualifying pure zero emission vehicles, which is typically 100% battery electric vehicles or hydrogen fuel cell, or basically some limited number of compressed natural gas vehicles who obviously are not zero emission but highly reduced nevertheless. And the expiration date for this program is 2019. Then there's a second category of so-called green stickers, who are available for plug-in hybrids powered by electric drives as well as gasoline engines in order to extend the driving range. And those were originally limited to 40,000 basically units, and this limit has been increased actually 3 additional times by increments of 15,000 to a maximum of 85,000. And the 85,000 limit has been reached in mid-December of 2015, which gives you kind of an indicator of the popularity of this program.
Right, okay, so would you say that the markets for the electric vehicles and ultimately the respective drivers are still outliers or marginalized, and what are the keys of success for this industry?
While it started with outliers, or basically innovators who were driving their own basically creations, there has been a much broader adoption of this type of vehicles lately. And I would say the future highly depends on the integration of electric vehicles within the product portfolio of the car makers. So the automotive sector today is close to the point where every major brand is producing at least one electric vehicle model. And some manufacturers are opting for mainstream designs that may help them gain broader acceptance on the marketplace. So you will find many offerings basically from high performance luxury cars all the way down to basically unique looking small vehicles for typical short commutes. So to come back to California, which is one of the strong markets for EVs, today there are roughly over 20 different makes available from 17 different manufacturers that will qualify for the white or green sticker programs presented earlier. And in the US overall, there are an additional 12 states who basically allow single occupant use and basically of electric or hybrid vehicles in the so-called carpool lanes. And next factor is really linked to the charging infrastructure in order to reduce the customer anxiety. So while OEMs are always offering basically home charging solution with the purchase of an electric vehicle, there's definitely a lack of widespread public charging stations. And the availability of charging stations outside of urban areas is typically really limited. So there's a tremendous potential for growth in this area. And if you look at the global electric vehicle charging market, there's a forecast of 30% of compound annual growth rate until 2020. And for manufacturers in the connectivity field like Northwire, it should therefore represent a question mark or a star, potentially even, following the Boston Consulting Group matrix terminology, depending on your respective market share. So finally, the consumer's perception of electric vehicles will continue to play a major role in the evolution of the market as well, and basically how these cars are accepted or basically viewed by the end users.
So besides all of the benefits from an emission reduction perspective, what other advantages do electric vehicles bring for future generations?
It's definitely a forward-looking and also hopeful question there, Bridget. And e-mobility overall is an innovation leader. So until recently, major basically automotive OEMs were driving the innovation on a product-only basis. So it was either linked to safety, to user experience, to design, etc. But due to the electric vehicle basically upcoming importance, many OEMs had to undergo major changes of their production basically setup, all the way to services that they need to offer. So basically OEMs also need to develop innovative ways to sustain the growth in terms of services associated with passenger cars, and especially also after sales. Because if you look at basically at an increasing degree of electrification, that will typically drive decreasing requirements for maintenance intensity, as well as basically also after sales, because hopefully connected or smart vehicles will reduce the risk of basically hazards and accidents over time, which obviously consumes less after sales parts. So you need to basically find other ways how you're going to basically get to the revenue stream that you're losing in after sales. Then finally, if the popularity of EVs comes to explode over the next few decades to the point where electric power might become the mainstream fuel, the next big challenge out there is going to be a sufficient environment-friendly power generation in order to address this need. Therefore, solar and wind power should definitely have a promising future. And at Northwire, we are pleased to be able to offer solutions for those harsh markets as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Fabian, for taking the time today to tell us a little bit more about this market space.
Thank you for having me, Bridget.